Hey, I'm Bill DeVille, and I'm here in the Mod Moon Warehouser studio, and I'm here with Neal Francis. How you doing, Neal?
How you doing, Bill? Good to see you.
It's nice to see you. How's the tour going with Marcus King?
Oh, it's been going great. Just ripping it up out there every night.
Yeah, it must be nice to be out on the road. I mean, how did you get through the pandemic? I mean, without playing live.
We played with each other in literal sense in the basement, just making music, making new music, recording an album. We had a church that I inhabited in Chicago that we just built out our own studio.
So tell me about this church that you lived in. So you were in an apartment, and then you moved into this church. Was it? How did that work out? I mean,
yeah. So I just kind of threw myself at the mercy of the church councilwoman there. And after a kind of turbulent period in my life, I just asked if I could live in the parsonage, which at that time was vacant. And she graciously let me stay there. And it ended up being for about 21 months, although at the time I asked her, it seemed like it might have been a short-term situation. But yeah, I lived there by myself for a while, and then our drummer, Collin O'Brien, moved in.
And you set up and recorded then in this parsonage?
Yeah, so gradually, especially after we came off of tour in March of 2020, when all of the tour dates were canceled, ended up just slowly acquiring gear from friends. Like our guitarist, Kellen Boersma, left a tape machine for me, and I just started messing around with that and doing demos, which became the bulk of In Plain Sight, our last record.
Was there any divine intervention or anything where you're going through the recording process?
I believe so. I believe the whole thing was some sort of miracle, if you will, just whatever terminology you want to use, but it was definitely not something I could have ever planned for myself, just having that roof over my head during the most uncertain time in our, professional lives, just,
right.
For a very modest duties at the church.
Right. So you've been through such a whirlwind lately. I just saw you at Americana Fest a week and a half ago in Nashville, Tennessee, where you were a nominee for Best Emerging Artist, and it was so cool to see you play with that band with Don Was and Buddy Miller and Brady Blade and people like that. That was so awesome. You sounded great.
Thank you.
So congratulations on that nomination. What's it like playing in a place like the Ryman, the mother church of, country music, as they say?
It's definitely one of those places that has a palpable energy to it, like the Fillmore in San Francisco or the Capitol Theater in New York. Those places are hallowed ground, if you will, and all the musicians there treat it with reverence as well. And so we had a chance to open for Amos Lee there 2 nights over the summer, and that was really great as well. And we're going back with Marcus here in a few weeks.
So it was just a little bit of a warm-up before you head back and do your own full set in a few weeks.
We've played greater than 1% of all the nights this year at the Ryman Auditorium. It's 5. We're going to complete 5 nights on this next 2-night stand with Marcus.
That's so awesome. When I watch you play and I hear you play, I hear so much kind of a New Orleans style, perhaps maybe Alan Toussaint influenced or Dr. John. Are those 2 touchstones for you? I mean, artists like that?
Yeah, undoubtedly. I really gravitated towards the music of Alan Toussaint and the records he produced in my late teens, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already been listening to several records he produced without knowing that he was involved.
Yeah, he was such a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And I mean, the music that he was responsible for producing, like Lee Dorsey and Ernie K. Doe and Dr. John and the Meters. Yeah. And it's like this, LaBelle, all this music that he wrote and produced and even sang background vocals on all these recordings. It has a very distinct blend of rock, soul, gospel, country, and it's like its own genre almost unto itself.
And he had that such easygoing vibe. Just seemed like just such a nice fella. I never met him or anything, but he just seemed like he was so casual and so honest and forthright. Just seemed like a really good dude.
Yeah, he definitely gave that energy, and I never had a chance to meet him, before he passed, but I've met people who knew him well, and I've heard nothing but just that he was a very graceful person, and that's, I guess, another thing to look up to.
Yeah. What brought you to music? I saw you learn to play piano at age 4. Was that something, Mom, I really want to play piano, or did your folks push it on you, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I think it was mostly the fact that there was a piano in the house, and I became interested and started picking things apart by ear. My mom knew some piano, and so she taught me some things as well. And then we had a great record collection in my house growing up. My dad and my mom both had records. And
what were some of your go-tos?
Oh, I mean, growing up, I listened to so much, everything from like The Who, Stevie Wonder, The Beatles, Broadway shows like Phantom of the Opera, and classical music. Like I remember listening to Carmen by Bizet quite a lot, and just like it was all in the stew, And then blues, I became really interested in blues piano when I was like 6 or 7.
Did you, you're probably very young when you were first starting to hear, Chicago blues, but being in Chicago, did your parents bring you into some of the clubs, sneak you in or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, following my interest in blues, my dad took me to a blues club on the West Side called Rose's Lounge when I was 12. And, I'd already been listening to that music for a long time. And he took me to see Pinetop Perkins, who at that time
legendary
was probably
piano player. Yeah.
Yeah, he was already in his 80s at that point, but just really became enthralled with that music and ended up playing in those clubs for a long time in my teens and 20s.
Was it at this point you met Muddy Waters' son then?
That was at the end of high school. I had a band in high school called the Reverend Funk Connection that was managed.
That's a great name.
Yeah, thank you. This guy Larry was the manager of that high school band, and was also like, I've got this guy Larry Williams. He goes by Mud Morganfield. He's the oldest son of Muddy Waters, and he needs a piano player. And I was like, well, I've been listening, like aping the Otis Spann style for a long time, and ended up playing with him in clubs around Chicago. We went to Switzerland. We went to San Francisco. We went all over.
Did he have any great stories about his dad that he told you or anything? Or?
The one thing I remember, I didn't spend a terrible amount of time in that group, but I do remember him saying that his dad would visit him in Westmont, Illinois, every year and bring him a drum kit for Christmas, which I think meant that he got a drum kit for Christmas every year, but I'm not sure.
What happened to all those drum kits?
Right. I just don't know. I might be misinterpreting the story, but I'm pretty sure that's what he was saying.
So a while ago, I was doing our concert calendar at the Current. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I mentioned, and Neal Francis will be back in town. He just played last week, and he'll be back. And I realized what I did. There's 2 Neal Francises out on the road.
Oh, were they here?
They were here too,
Oh,
not
cool.
at the station, but they did perform in town.
Oh, right on.
Can both Neal Francises coexist happily in this world? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange, isn't
We're
it?
already inhabiting this world. There's much stranger things. I actually think Mark and Jordan are nice guys. They really helped us out at Outside Lands when our sets were back to back. Maybe as a joke, or maybe as a like the promoter of the festival just put our sets right next to each other, probably to aid people who might be confused,
Right.
which happens a lot.
Sure.
But the amp that was provided for me was busted, and Mark from Neal Francis, without any hesitation, let me use his guitar amp.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
it's really nice of him.
So you can coexist, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, they're nice people. And I like their music.
Nice. Well, it's been so nice chatting with you, Mr.
Likewise,
Francis.
Bill.
Yes. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.